This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
Chronic spontaneous urticaria, or chronic hives with no known cause. It's so unpredictable. It's like playing pinball. Itchy, red bumps start on my arm, then my back. Sometimes my legs. Hives come out of nowhere. And it comes and goes. But I just found out about a treatment option at treatmyhives.com. Take that, chronic hives. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wrestling Draft.
Welcome, everybody, to what is basically the epilogue of this season because, well, we know who's won in the main league. I'm sure Dave will tell us the same person he's been crying about for the whole of the Listeners League, who's probably won as lead has been strong for most of the season. But we pretty much crowned our winner. This is the epilogue going into the final show. Last chance to end on something respectable and some solid points. I am your host today, Scott McLeod, and I'm joined by a man who, if you're watching the YouTube version here in the Wrestling Draft, looks like he's jumping over in because he really needs the toilet. David, what are you doing?
Yeah, whoops. Sorry. No, I got too hyped up and then the pyro in the background scared me. So, yeah, anyway, back in the zone. And, yes, can you believe it? End of another season and first end of the season of under the Wrestling Draft banner. So, it's... But yeah, unfortunately it's one of those ones where it seems like a foregone conclusion at this point. We have our projected winners, although there may be some wrinkles going into Survivor Series, given what we've announced in our group chat.
Yeah, I mean that won't bear too much. I don't think on the draft. It'll affect us in other ways. But I know you were probably planning out, and you're probably so proud of yourself. But knowing you, part of me couldn't tell if that was legit or not because. Knowing you probably would be the kind of person to fall on his arse during a podcast recording.
Oh, listen, we've been podcasting for quite a few years now, and I mean, sure, I botch a lot of times if you listen to our back catalogue, but I think that was a first for me in this one.
Yeah, and also Pyro. Stephen Wilson is too tight to unlock the company credit card to afford Pyro. We can barely afford that weird explosion noise that everybody pipes in half the time.
Just get some Gilbert-esque sparklers and we're there.
Yeah, I'm sure you can get some of those. But yeah, we're here to talk about the fallout of Full Gear and then going into Survivor Series. Looking at the scorers, we have technically a top four, but two of them are in together as a team because all four are tied for 9 points. Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood 9 points each successfully even Steve Wonder could see this coming. Dax and Cash winning the AEW Tag Team Championships. Also on your team, Ricochet, your fellow bald brother, taking home the National Championship.
Finally doing something.
And then also Daniel Jameson team the Young Bucks on 9 points after winning $1 million. And I'm sure it's a little consequence though to Dan Axel because he's probably gutted that later on in the night, buddy, Hangman Page lost on a much more surprising result in the World Championship. But yeah, all tied on 9 apiece. I mean, the least surprising to see in there is Cash and Dax, because I think we were talking about that at length last week about how likely that was and how that was going to swing the season in David Campbell's favour. He did get on at me, though, even though I said it not in a way that I was choosing favourites. I said for the drama, not to make it slightly less of a foregone conclusion, give more intrigue than we already have going into the finale. What if FTR lost? How interesting that would make this 2-horse race? And he was very angry at me, but I was not trying to, demean him or in any way. I should point that out.
Yeah, no, Goats played a banger with FTR being drafted as two solos because it was sort of like a waiting game for him. I think he went in with the prediction that FTR were going to reclaim the tag titles at some point, and boy, did they, in such a really, really good match against Brodido. But yeah, it's, if anything, that's 18 points for Team GOAT rather than, FTR drafted as a tag team. And that's the risk you take when you draft a tag team as singles competitors, because, we've seen in the past, you can draft one person of a tag team, another person drafts the other. But when you get two from the same as singles, I think I've only ever seen it once before, I think with Grizzled Young Veterans in one of our past seasons. But yeah, it's GOAT's just bearing the fruits of the labor, shall we say, and it's pretty much secured him that victory there.
Yeah, pretty much. I think going into Survivor Series, there's very little that can change the outcome here. We can just basically declare it this season, first season under the wrestling draft, it has been won by the GOAT David Campbell.
7 times.
25% of all drafts we've done have been won by him, plus one Listeners League as well, it should be mentioned. So that does
which is last. 6 times too many.
He will be picking last when we do a selection show next week. We haven't settled a date yet, but please do stay tuned to our social media channels for any updates regarding that. Also, after that, you'll have an option to get involved in the Listener League for that as well. And, that'll be open a bit longer. So, we're coming in.
Keep an eye out on our socials if you want to take part.
Absolutely. But it's weird. They two on their own are doing better than half the tag teams, it feels like. But
yeah, I think that's a given as well.
Also, before we get, Ricochet, the national champion, the whole thing about new belts being on the AEW side may not come into effect next season, but on the AEW side, we're going to have 2 new belts to think about going forward with this and the women's tag team championships. How valuable do you really think those belts are going to be going forward?
Ooh, I reckon the international title is probably going to fall under the same banner as the continental title with Okada. I think you're going to get a lot of exposure with it, but mostly on Collision. And I think the women's tag titles might fill that void as well. Keep Dynamite with the sort of titles that have had a bit more longevity and a bit more time to gain momentum. But if you're looking for, title defenses that you just want to sort of build the repertoire of a new championship, I think it seems more like Collision-esque. But I think it opens up the doors for new drafting opportunities. Maybe some folk could be drafted a little bit higher compared to this season. And it maybe opens opportunities for, women's tag teams as well, which you don't see a lot of these days.
Although they did say with the national championship, they said a similar thing about the national when it was called the All Atlantic belt, but they said, this is for somebody who's going to go around the world and represent AEW. So you run the risk if you pick Ricochet that he's not even going to be on TV defending it as much as you'd think.
And people claim that WWE had too many championships. Now, I think AEW is kind of just ripping the piss with it a little bit, AEW International Champion, AEW Continental Champion, AEW, Intercontinental Champion. Yeah.
But so here's the thing, we were going to talk about the Continental Classic as a thing for next season. Now, the unified belt, which Okada has, defending Continental Classic winner, was made up of the International and the Continental belts being unified, even though Don Callis likes to carry the old belts anyway. Now, what they said on Dynamite is so bloody confusing regarding this. So, the Continental belt was out during Continental Classic matches. Okada came out with the old International belt, not the unified belt. So basically saying that one half of these belts that has been unified to make the unified championship is what's being defended in the Continental Classic. So basically, if Okada doesn't win the tournament, he's basically lost his unified belt. But they're representing that by putting out the old belts, not the new belt. Why can't the Continental Classic now just be like the Owen Hart Cup? Why can't it just be a number one contenders thing?
Yeah,
like Revolution or whatever?
Exactly. This is AEW. It's just nothing has to be straightforward. Everything has to be extremely convoluted. Only the marks will know how it works and stuff. And, don't insult the fans' intelligence. At least don't insult our, ability to process rules and structure. Don't just throw shit at the wall and expect something to stick.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll read some excellent matches and everything, but it's just really confusing the way the rules work. But for one last time, for the people at the back, we're going to go through the top leaderboard here and see how many of these people can really change their fate going into Survivor Series. Now, one man who can't is Andy Mitchell, who is down at the bottom, 199. Can he crack that all-important 200 barrier going into the final weekend?
You know what? He said he was gonna beat me in this draft, but I think even with Survivor Series coming up, the only person he's got on the card is Jimmy Uso.
Still could pull something out of the face team win there.
Maybe.
So then on 201.5 points, I mean, he's lucky to be ahead of Andy Mitchell because of the shocker he's had. He was last for a good few weeks just then. Gary Kernahan, Team Vrissera, I mean, his chances of winning the season are all like Nelson Fraser at the minute. JP Del Grande, 215 points, is in just ahead of him. And then there's me, Yeet Dreams of Me, on 220. I'm hoping a Jey Uso victory on the team.
Well,
his team could help me get at least closer to surpassing that Arsehole who said he was going to beat me this season. Grant McRobbie, AI know better than you.
AI clearly does know better than you, Scott. Like, you know, you say Yeet Dreams are made of these, but, you know, I think you should be coining your last season's team name with the little Bitter Yeet Symphony in this instance.
Do you really put any thought into these jokes when you come up with them? Because
listen, I'm just using your own team name against you in the context of a joke. So
we should not be encouraging Grant McRobbie's tactics here. This is going to put us all out of a job. This is going to put us all out of our hosting duties here. We should not be encouraging this. Also, the main points that Grant McRobbie can get going into this is not even at Survivor Series. It's tomorrow or tonight on Collision with Title in a match. That's all he's got left. Then Iguana Dance with somebody, 255.5 points.
Oh my God.
Smith. And then he's just under you on 263. But you were behind Dan Axel Jameson.
I'm beating the Iguana. I'll take that. You know, I'm beating the Iguana. I'm beating AI, and I'm beating Andy Mitchell. I'm happy with that. Just
missing out on the top 5 is Element Lucas with 55 including. Well, you've got 277.5. So we're still counting now. And we go into the top 5 with it Tsunami Time with Gary Morris, who's been a strong contender in the top 5 for a good while now. But a new challenger has jumped into the top 5 up at number 4 with the Draft Bastards, cracking that all-important 300 barrier with Robert Shaw.
Robert fucking Shaw. Say his name and he'll appear.
Don't about holding in there, like in large part to, despite Kyle Fletcher losing at Full Gear, he did get back with a win over Okada in a Continental Classic match. With 310.5 points is Tom Brock. And then up to 322 points with Straight Edge Brutality. It's been brutal to watch Steven so high up in the table for so long this season. But that gap has been well and truly forged. 343 points is David Campbell. Now, I don't want to compare this to his other seasons because I can't really remember his actual record off the top of my head, because I did try and imply, or I thought maybe, that Tom Brock's record this season and his performance was his best one outside as a singles competitor. But David Campbell rightfully pointed out that he'd done better in previous seasons, but I'd forgotten, so I don't want to make a fool of myself. But what more can be said about David Campbell? I mean, the word GOAT is overused a lot, not just here, but in general in terms of how great people are at what they do. But, it's beyond hyperbole at this point. Skill cannot be denied.
No, it definitely cannot. And, GOAT's been doing this season just been doing the wrestling draft since the very beginning. And he's obviously got a winning formula that he's not telling anybody. And for good reason. Well, I was going to say for good reason, because, he's not, he just always seems to hit the right notes at the right time. Especially, he's got this foresight of saying who's going to become big, he takes a gamble on folk and somehow he pulls it out the bag. I didn't think the Raquel Roxanne tag team would go a long way, but lo and behold, appearance points mostly down the line, especially with Raquel, trying to make her name for herself at the women's world title. At least he avoided the repercussions of that. It's worked out pretty damn well for Team GOAT, and I think the FTR solo picks are a big factor of that. But don't take anything away from Ava Raine either. 46 points on just appearances alone. That echoes Zelina Vega from 2020 pandemic era. But the investment in Stephanie Vicaire is the juggernaut reason of why he's scored so many points. All the eggs are in Stephanie Vicaire's basket at this point. She's been going from strength to strength, becoming women's world champion, rarely taken an L. And even if she did, it's only been in shock fashion to JC Jane in, I think it was last season. But yeah, Stephanie Vicaire, she goes from strength to strength. She's a hit with the fans, and I think she is going to be a very consistent round one pick in future seasons going forward.
Guarantee. I mean, I think, it's funny, like David Campbell's overtaken Stephen Wilson, who has Rhea Ripley in his team, and Rhea Ripley had become that kind of competitor, and I think Stephanie Vicaire as well and truly also leaping over her and that season in terms of, where she'll be picked going forward.
Mm-hmm.
This is season 21. According to Stephen Wilson, and because David Campbell is really wanting to know, this score at the minute, because this is not his final score, there's still points to be won potentially. But this current score that David Campbell has, according to Stephen Wilson, is the 12th highest overall in draft season. Now, the GOAT does have the highest score overall, but not in this season.
Mm-hmm. So not top 10, but he still holds the highest one regardless.
Yeah. I believe it was his highest one is 463. He says, I'm assuming the number next to it is the season, so it's season 18.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I just like the fact that I mentioned here a couple of times for some seasons. Also, not all these are winners. These are just people who finished on really high scores. Yes, Tom Brock, 395.5 points in season 18. So that is his best performance compared to what he has in this season, which is currently 310.5. So yes, significantly higher there.
He's done well.
We're talking about foregone conclusions. Is it a foregone conclusion as we think it is coming into the Listeners League as well? Because I'll be honest with you, if it is who I think it is, I don't envy them coming in after all this time wanting to be in the main league, but I don't envy them coming in this season, given how short and how frantic it's going to be.
Oh yeah, like it's Royal Rumble season. We go from Survivor Series to the Rumble. It's 2 months most, but if you've played a Royal Rumble season before, you know where your priority has to lie when you're choosing your team. So be very, very careful with who you choose, and maybe don't go for the most obvious picks straight away, because you have to consider not just from WWE standpoint, but I think it's pretty clear that AEW in this season has been a bit of a barn burner in terms of scoring.
Yeah. So, what is the top 5 currently in the Listeners League? Is it any change, anything worth updating, or can we already start singing the victory trumpets like we're already doing for David Campbell?
I actually wouldn't be singing the victory just yet, because whilst, the trend of the top 5 has been pretty consistent, I think we shouldn't rule out anything yet, because we've seen in past seasons before anything can happen. But I'll reveal the top 5 for the season finale. And in 5th place, we have Ticker. No clue, but will still win. Clearly won't. He's on 333.5 points. His team consists of Cody Rhodes, Mercedes Moné, Hobbs and Shibata, Penta, Ricochet, and Bayley. So that win for Ricochet, winning the Casino Gauntlet, is what helps boost him into the top 5 going into the final. Cody Rhodes is obviously going to be his big representation, 121 points with the captaincy applied. So he needs the men's face team to win that War Games match if he has any hope of a strong finish, because if the faces lose, I think he's going to be completely shafted on this one. 4th place, we have Gordon with I'm Not Too Fussed. Well, you better get fussed, because he's in 4th place, 341.5, 8 points ahead of Ticker. His team consists of Rhea Ripley, Jon Moxley, Mercedes Moné, Jimmy Uso, The Bucks, and Roman Reigns. So 2 representatives in the men's War Games match, both on the same side. Still not sure if they're going to walk out with a win. But then Rhea Ripley with the captaincy applied, I reckon that could be, worthwhile in at least a few points. So he has potential to finish maybe 3rd at best at this stage. But still a decent performance from Gordon all round. He's been consistently in the top 5, and it's a pretty strong team on paper in the grand scheme of things. Third place is 12 points ahead of him. It's Ross Brady with the big Ross man. So his team is Braun Squared, JC Jane, Seth Rollins, Adam Pearce, Dax Hardwood, and Lash Legend. Again, Braun Squared in the War Games match. This could potentially give him that boost to maybe finish second place. If not, if the heel women in the women's War Games also win, those Lash Legend points might actually just be enough to boost him over the edge. So hold that thought when it comes to Ross Brady in this instance. And even with a limping Seth Rollins over the finish line, he could still finish strong. But more on that in just a bit. Second place, just 1.5 points ahead of him, is Anthony Fitzpatrick, who essentially mimics Team GOAT. So the Stephanie McCare points, title defense against Nikki Bella, will easily get him some points there. But let's not take anything away that he's also got Jey Uso on his team as well for the men's War Games match. So I think he's most likely to get points from a Stephanie McCare title defense. If he gets that, he may pretty much close the gap with our top scorer of the Listeners' League. But it's still very touch and go with how things might turn out, because our top scorer of the Listeners' League, and he's pretty much done it all season long, it's Big Alan Laurie with Draft Balls 3, the search for Draft Balls 2, 381 points. He is currently 16 points ahead of Anthony Fitzpatrick. He has Seth Rollins, John Moxley, Braun Squared, Sol Ruka, Nick Aldis, and Chelsea Green. So, Braun Squared in the War Games match, and that's pretty much it. But we could see a couple of appearances from Nick Aldis and maybe Chelsea Green in the background. I think that's going to be...
It says a lot about the state of the main league right now when the Listeners' League is slightly more unpredictable going into the finale than ours is.
You know what? I think that's the best part about the draft, because the Listeners' League had the luxury of picking and choosing from the pools of the drafted wrestlers that we did in order. So they have to be a bit more creative with their planning, but they also get a bit more flexibility. And whilst most of their teams do look a lot better on paper, it's all about, how well the booking goes for them. And I think in Alan Laurie's case, going full vision for his team, I think was probably very wise. Although there was a very notable exception with the wise man, Paul Heyman, not being drafted a part of Alan Laurie's team. Maybe a missed opportunity there. But regardless, Seth Rollins has practically been carrying his season with Braun Squared backing him up strong. If Alan needs to secure this win, and I really hope he does, because he's put in, a lot of time and effort into our Listeners' League, and I think he's worked his way towards a win. He just needs to seal the deal with a Braun Squared victory inside War Games. If he gets that, he's won the season. And if he can get himself a few... They're
both people who have been at this for a long time. I'm kind of rooting for Anthony Fitzpatrick, actually, even though you're rooting for Alan Laurie. And I think a face win in the War Games plus Stephanie winning, because I'm assuming Stephanie is his captain.
Yes.
You'd have that gap would be ever so much smaller going into the men's, because I'm assuming the men's will main event, the women's world title will be in the middle of the show.
Have you seen how much star power is in the men's War Games match? Honest to God, I can see why people would spend a fortune to see that match.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, I think even the Stephanie one might be enough to almost secure him, but the Jey win in the men's War Games would push him over the edge. So it really does come down to that men's War Games, the main event, the very final match of the season.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing I like to see in this.
The men's War Games will decide who will win the Listeners' League. I think Alan Laurie's still the favourite, but you never know. Anthony Fitzpatrick could pull off the steal of the century at this point. And to be honest, when he's associated with Team GOAT, I would be livid if that was the case.
I've known Anthony Fitzpatrick for a while, so I'm kind of rooting for him. Just a weird aside, I've mentioned that Stephen shared that list of the all-time scores in terms of the draft, final scores in draft history. Now, should mention Ross is around 10 or 9 for his overall score in season 5, which is 346 points overall. That's the season 5 where he had that famous Selena Vega performance. That performance, which all but appearance heavy competitors are compared to. So we mentioned Eva Rae, how much she's benefited the GOAT. And there again, another example. Ross didn't win that season, but that's a hell of a strong score when one of your main scorers is only doing appearances. But before we get to Survivor, we should mention on AEW side of things, obviously there will be World's End right at the end of December. You're offering for AEW, but also there is a Continental Classic. What's interesting though is if you're going to pick someone who's in the Continental Classic, one thing it seems obvious, but like make sure it's someone who you actually think is going to the whole thing, because when we start the first week of the season, we'll have missed 2 weeks of the tournament because it started this week, which is the final week of this season, and then there'll be that week where there's no scoring because we're doing the selections. So we'll miss 2 weeks, and then you've got like 4 or so weeks. Then right at the end of December, the 27th of December, they're doing the league finals and the actual final on the same night at World's End. So that'll be very interesting going into that. But
yeah. So don't just think about the Royal Rumble. Think about World's End. Think about the Continental Classic. Think about something else that we've got that's going to be different next season as well. Scott, would you like to reveal what it is?
Yes. So after weeks of campaigning and badgering here and in the group chats, Steve Wilson, almost like a dad, kind of throwing his hands like, do whatever you want kind of thing, has made it official. Starting next season, all championships that are defended on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW Dynamite, or Collision, or subsequent pay-per-views relating to those brands, even if they are not WWE or AEW sanctioned belts, if they're defended on those shows, they can count to championship points. So Dominic Mysterio defending a AAA championship. If Mascara and his pals want to come back and defend their CMLL belts on AEW, TNA belts being defended in
NXT. Yep, those will count.
Well, I think we already had the rule for Ring of Honor, but we're going to keep that one. Probably maybe if Takeshita wants to defend the IWGP belt on AEW. And, I'm excited about this. But, what? What did you say, Dave?
I was just going to say, basically, if AEW hosts an IWGP title match, it'll count if you choose Takeshita, for example.
Yeah. I mean, Takeshita does have to defend the belt on January the 4th at Wrestle Kingdom, so if he does get through that as the champion, and he does have a match with and the belt's on the line, it will be on AEW show at this point.
Yeah, but if he defends it at Wrestle Kingdom, it won't count, because we only do.
And he comes back to AEW TV with the belt, and he's still in this thing with Okada.
Yeah.
In all likelihood that they have a match for the belt, it'll be on an AEW show, which would count to points. Although part of me is now worried after all this campaigning and all this complaining for something we should have already had in place, that all the TNA and AAA thing on WWE side is just going to start slowing down altogether. Because, we just missed out on some value points with 2 weeks of Gold Rush, where we had Dante and Ethan defending belts. I'm also assuming if it's a WWE brand, if they're defending on NXT, that the Evolve belts will count as well, because we had both the men's and women's Evolve titles defended on this week's NXT. So if it's on NXT, it's a WWE brand.
Yeah. Although, is anybody going to be drafting people from Evolve, though?
Maybe not on the men's side, but that Kendall Gray, who's the women's champion, she appears in NXT. Yeah, so a 5th or 6th round, if you're desperate for that 3-2 split and you need a female pick.
I'd say Kendall Gray would be your best bet.
Very much a grey area when it comes to those kind of picks.
Get out.
It's the name of her finisher and everything. Leave me alone.
Never mind. Can we move on?
Yeah. So I think your first round pick, maybe try and go with someone you think might win one of the 2 Royal Rumbles, but lower down you look at some of the people who are looking at championships from other promotions and potentially also the Continental Classic winners to kind of fill out, because also the Continental Classic, that's leading through December, that's potentially multiple TV wins, and if they win the tournament at World's End, that's 2 wins in one night, and technically the finale should be counted as a pay-per-view title win if they are winning the Continental belt, especially if it's not Okada winning it. He loses it to someone else like a Takeshita or someone else, then I think the argument can be made that as a title win on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if it is for the title, it should be a title win, but let's not forget the old stable as well. If it's title for title, 1 pin, 1 win. No points for retaining on top of winning a new championship.
Of course. But that's all ahead of this. Many of us are already calculating our teams and thinking of our picks for next season, and it's very exciting when we get that time of year. But there is the small matter of Survivor Series to get to. My main hopes all lie on Jey Uso to be on the winning side of it. Now, let's look at who will benefit if the men's team were to win this coming Saturday at War Games. Obviously, Jimmy Uso and Andy Mitchell's team.
Yep.
Uso on my team.
You've got CM Punk on Steven's team. You've got Cody Rhodes on Robert fucking Shaw's team. And you've got Roman Reigns on Alan Lucas's team.
Yeah. So it seems like that Roman Reigns thing is potentially coming back. I mean, he's out to the top 5. You could go back into the top 5, which would be a better performance than he's had in a little while, and also a better performance than either of us probably thought of when he made that pick early on. But, I think now Roman Reigns will enter back in the conversation because, he's on Raw. That belt would look good on me. So going into the Rumble, could he win the men's Rumble? Could he win the men's Rumble? Could he go out to win the titles going into WrestleMania season? That's where Roman Reigns has re-entered the chat in terms of a priority.
Yeah. Well, I've got tunnel vision for the men's War Games, and I think it would be foolish to not have the Vision and Co. win this match.
I don't know if they were ever really going to win, even if Seth was in it, because surely the Vision, the dominance, Seth winning at SummerSlam and the way he's been cheating, getting the win over Cody Rhodes, he was probably going to cheat against Punk at Saturday night's main event. All this was probably going to lead up to the Vision finally getting a major loss against them, because Bronson Reed was also getting wins over Roman Reigns, so it's this reign of dominance was probably going to be come crashing down on them with a loss of War Games. Because the plan was to set up something between Roman and Punk. So I don't know if they're ever going to win, especially now that they've got bloody Logan Paul thrown in there as well.
It's difficult to say, but I think if Punk and Cody need new challengers for the respective titles, I think you need to have a dominant heel win to solidify claims. Because you've obviously got Braun Breaker. He's been, being almost like the torch is en route to getting past to him. Logan Paul might stake a claim because he's anything but humble, and then Drew McIntyre will have a reason to maybe re-challenge Cody. And then there's obviously the X factor in Brock Lesnar, who could just insert himself in the title picture at any time he wants. So it's but yeah, when you've got the Vision represented, so it's Braun Squared, held by who holds Braun Squared? It's Gary Morris. Gary Morris. Yep. Big Alan Laurie's from the Listeners League in this instance. Yes. So,
and he has Drew McIntyre as well. So
he does. Yeah. So yeah, Gary Morris would benefit a lot from a Vision win for War Games. Logan Paul undrafted, Brock Lesnar undrafted. No surprises there. But yeah, so it's all Gary Morris for Team Vision in this instance. It's one versus all for Gary here.
Outside of Jey Uso being on my team, I think the fact that now in the men's team you've got both men's world champions on one side, whereas the other team is because of Seth being out of it, kind of more of a hodgepodge than it would have been before if Seth had been here. I see it more so Roman, they tease something with Roman and Punk, or they might follow up, then Roman helps secure the win for the faces to set up wherever they're going to go going forward. Because it's weird that both War Games have people on the face sides teasing dissension, but surely they can't do the same finish in both. But talking about both War Games, as much as Gary Morris has every wish for the men's heel team to win, you have the same feelings, but for the women's face team, you have both Io Sky and Charlotte and Alexa as tag team.
I need the face women to win this War Games match if I want a strong finish. Because, Charlotte and Bliss have been my captains all seasons. I probably should have put it on Ethan Page if I wanted to finish higher. But I think a strong finish for this lot would be exactly what I needed in this match. Because Nia Jax, undrafted, I believe. Lash Legend. Oh, no. Is Nia Jax undrafted?
I don't think she is. I'm sure someone has. Lash Legend's on JP's team.
Yeah, JP's got Lash Legend. The Kabukis, I think Asuka's been drafted. Kairi Sane hasn't. And then Gary Kernahan's got Becky Lynch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's difficult trying to keep track of so many teams. Just imagine trying to put yourself in our shoes here when you're on hosting duty.
I want to mention, you joked about how you were happy that you were finishing ahead of Matt Smith. Matt Smith is happy.
Oh, Tom Brock has Nia Jax.
There you go. it's easy to forget given how much Kyle Fletcher's been outperforming pretty much everyone on his team. But Matt Smith is pretty happy recently because but he sort of Strickland finally made his return, so now he doesn't have someone on 0 points. And now, thanks to Gunther, which Dan Axel Jameson's really happy about, 2 wins on Raw. But I don't think we're finishing with anybody on 0 points this season.
Well, that's a relief, yeah. We're basically saved Dan Axel from a donut finish, as it were.
She mentioned Stephen Wilson. I mean, he wouldn't have done him any good, but he did also suffer a loss, which he didn't need to, which he really didn't want to have, with Marina Shafir and Megan Bain losing in the 4-way at Full Gear, which didn't help him. Now, I mentioned David Campbell. He's not fully out of it yet. Now, he doesn't have that much in terms of actually Survivor Series itself, other than Stephanie Vaquer. But Solo Sikoa has had a little of a last-minute resurgence because he's won against Dolph Ziggler. Maybe you'd have a chance if he came out as Nick Nemeth. Then, because of the injury to Penta, he's advanced even further in the last times now. So that was extra points. This Friday on SmackDown, it's Solo leading MFTs against Sami Zayn in a Survivor Series match. So, that's even more. So he's both got Solo and Stephanie are his last 2 hopes. So Solo went on SmackDown. I mean, this is just a victory lap, I think, at this point for these two. It's like this much is good, but more is better for David.
Yes. I mean, even if he eats a loss to Gunther, if we adopt the scoring for, Survivor Series elimination matches like we've done in the past, it's salt in the wound if MFT walks out with the victory in the traditional match.
Also, John Cena not drafted. Maybe in hindsight, I don't know. Do you think in hindsight someone should have taken the punt on Cena? Because he lost to Brock, but he beat Logan on pay-per-view. He beat AJ on pay-per-view. He won the Intercontinental Championship. He won the 6-man tag. So, as Michael pointed out, the trivia question, who was the last man to be beaten in a TV match by John Cena, is JD McDonough.
I know. But I talked about this with Gary Morris while you were, babysitting. And John Cena, if we exclude, going into Survivor Series, he defends the Intercontinental title. I imagine he's going to drop it and he'll just go into his last match titleless. He currently is on 34.5 points. So just to put that into perspective, he's scoring higher than Roxanne Perez, Solo Sikoa, Raquel Rodriguez, Oba Femi, Lyra Valkyria, Dragon Lee, just to name a few, Kenny Omega, Nia Jax, Bayley, the list goes on. John Cena, I think, would have been a very viable, maybe 3rd or 4th round pick with that kind of scoring. He's done really well, albeit given his appearances were numbered.
But someone who has also, we mentioned Matt Smith's team, obviously, one teams every member who seemed to score. Someone who's been really helping them for the most part this season, who's also been a powerhouse the last couple of seasons, is Dominic Mysterio, who currently sits on 127 points. Where his next highest scorer, Matt Smith, is Mercedes Moné, who lost at Full Gear, who's on 66 points. But so Dominic winning against John Cena going into it. So it's weird because it seems like there's 2 ways he could do it. Cena could lose his last 2 matches, which would fit wrestling tradition, or does he, beat Dominic, who can probably be all right either way, and have Gunther beat him, because Gunther seems like the favourite to win the last time in their tournament. Does Gunther go back to the Intercontinental Championship after already being in the World title picture? Does he take a step back down to the Intercontinental belt? Does it also, it's by the question, does John Cena's last match need the Intercontinental Championship in it?
Not necessarily. I think you could sell his last match with just name power alone.
But all the momentum that Dominic said, I think Matt Smith, more than anybody, will be there praying for the Dirty Dom to lie, cheat, and steal his way back to an Intercontinental Championship win.
Yeah, I think, and Dom was listed in the ESPN top 30 under 30 for wrestlers across various companies. He was number 1. So he's above Rhea Ripley, Leon Slater, Javon Evans, a lot of big names, and he's top of that pile. I mean, I was thinking Rhea Ripley was going to make the top of that list, but no, Dom has got a lot of support behind him. He's got a lot of stock invested in him. And I think a win over Cena would do wonders for him.
I think Rhea's 2025 has been a lot quieter than other years, so that's probably why she didn't. I mean,
She was out with injury for a good
Yeah.
couple of times.
in their kayfabe relationship, it's one of the few times Dom has ever been on top of Rhea Ripley. But as most people, I think it's fair to say here, is like, this is not about winning anymore. This is basically like holding your head up high at the end of the season.
Survival, shall we say.
Survival, literally. But like finishing with a respectable enough score to, not feel bad about yourself for being so thoroughly defeated by the GOAT. But, there's no shame in losing to the best. And I think the next time David Campbell appears on here, he's going to want us to give him a John Cena style entrance and introduction the way he's been getting it with the whole never seen 17 every time John Cena makes an
Never
appearance.
seen 7.
Yeah, but like, one thing we can't from the John Cena thing include is saying one final time, because David Campbell said it's his final time several times, and he still never goes away.
Listen, he just needs to go the same way as his idol Trish Stratus. Win that 7th title and then just ride off into the sunset and just leave it at that.
What do you mean, Trish Stratus who wrestled in 2025 on a WEPLE?
Yeah, just make special appearances and whatnot.
Yeah, that is everything in terms of the draft and for Survivor Series. But I'll throw this one in here because it might not affect you guys watching it, but it's going to help us make Survivor Series a little bit more fun. We do a little in-house predictions contest here, and I came up with this idea where we did their full gear sweep. Whoever the top 2 were, those 2 would then pick 4 people, and we do a little War Games Survivor Series predictions, and where basically everyone submits their picks as normal, but each team's scores are calculated and added up together, and whoever's team, is higher than the other, wins. And then those 5 will go on to deadline and a sweep there. Now, you couldn't write this stuff, even though I heard me across tweets, I didn't write this. I finished first, and David Hockney finished second, And it's interesting, David, it's rare that he finishes second. Usually, he has the women in his life, he finishes so fast in first place that they didn't know they started. But
and people criticise me for recycled patter.
You do not get to talk about recycled patter here. But yes, David,
fucking pot kettle.
Your team. It's the West End Country Club against the Working Men's Club. It's the normal, ordinary working men against the elite, the posh, the Tories over on that side.
And you know what? Bad news as well on my side is that I've run out of Sri Lankan tea. So,
You sleep.
So much for my catchphrase of I'm here to kick ass and drink Sri Lankan tea because I'm out of the latter. But the good news is I booked a flight over to Sri Lanka earlier this week because, I'm a seasoned traveller and I need to restock. But the next flight isn't until March time, unfortunately. So, it'll just have to be a waiting game until then. But we are a force to be reckoned with us here at the West End Country Club. Myself, Robert fucking Shaw, Tom Brock, Stephen Wilson, and our 4th official, Mr. Gary Morris, who no doubt will rock some impartiality amongst this War Games scenario that we find ourselves in.
Honestly, and I don't mean to disrespect, I mean disrespect to some of your team members, I did not even think of any of them at any point for my team. So I got the team that I wanted. You seem to got the team because I knew it was me picking, then you, because I was like, whoever finishes first will pick first, and whoever finishes second will go second, we'll go back and forth. I did not consider for once, even to take Robert Shaw to annoy you, I didn't even think about it because I didn't think that was worthy of, messing up my strategy. So you got my team, a proper team, a team of winners, a cold-blooded team of winners. We got me, David Campbell, my brother Ross. We got Andy Mitchell, your favourite, the man you tried to hold down, and Dan Axel Jameson, who in the past, with Stars of Sweeps, I've not always had the best things to say of him, given his attitude. But you know what? The man is damn good at bloody sweeps. So is
Robert fucking Shaw, by the way. The man is a threat, and you know that good and well.
Yes, but Dan Axel Jameson was the final ESSR champion. He was the first wrestling prediction champion under the wrestling draft banner. That man knows how to win. I mean, when you took Stephen Wilson, I almost laughed because Stephen Wilson's performance at Full Gear, Jesus, the amount of, I'd even put an actual number next to his score. He did that badly. He had more crosses. He had more X's than bloody Ramona Flowers. So you have him.
Listen, everybody's entitled to have a howler, but if there's anything I've learned from having a howler is that you'll always come back strong. And I think maybe AEW isn't the most consistent of booking, so it makes sense. I mean, I had a howler once at NXT UK Cardiff when we had that classic Gunther Tyler Bate matchup. That was the only match I got right, and I came back stronger in the following sweep. So if anything's to go by, I think we're on pace to have a good showdown. And I just want to point out to everybody else watching or listening this, Scott actually chose the GOAT David Campbell ahead of his own brother. So make it that way you will.
And Ross would understand why I had to do what I had to do. I needed the GOAT on my team, but I also needed my big brother, and they understood. And I knew that in between those, you would predictably pick Robert Shaw. So I knew I'd get my top two, and I knew you wouldn't. You look so much down on Andy Mitchell, and you unfairly look down on him for your ivory tower and your posh tea.
Well, everybody's looking down on him because he's at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, you look down upon that man, but he will surprise you. He is a man who knows how to win when it comes to sweets. He may not know in the draft, but the draft doesn't matter here. This is about war games, and he's going to surprise you. I swear to God. So,
well, let's see him put his money where his mouth is then, because I mean, you can talk a big game, but let's see actually deliver. And to be fair to me, he does get a lot of credit for all that powerlifting he does, because me and him go to the same gym.
No one cares about the gym right now. This is war. This is what we're talking about. This is about randomly predicting predictable wrestling matches. I'm talking to my own rage here. Before I have a fit, and we're gonna wrap this one up. We'll see you guys next time you see us. Well, here on the YouTube channel on the
draft selection night.
Yes, Jesus, I need to calm down.
Easy for you to say.
You need to calm down. It's really you and your stupid slappable face.
But yeah. Listen, if you've never watched Draft Selection Night here on the Wrestling Draft, come and watch it. It's like the most fun any of us have is when we do a new season, because we get interaction from not just the participants in the Premier League, but our Listeners League audience can also join in. They can comment, they can share their thoughts, and we would really appreciate it if as many people got involved and watched us live stream our selections.
So next time you see us on the YouTube feed, it'll be a selection show. Next time you see us in the audio realm, will be our selection show analysis, where we take all the teams right before the season properly starts, and we analyse, we make snap judgments that are often proven wrong, and we see if we can predict who will finish bottom, who will finish top, and who will finish right in the creamy centre of it all.
Praising
dark horses, to surprise us all. But until then, we say thank you for watching. For David Hockney, I say you're going down at Survivor Series, but join us for the selection show next week. Same draft time, same draft channel.
Yep. Come see us then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.